Hi, welcome to Tech Ranch, a place where we learn and earn technical skills in the most efficient way. Let's make coding fun. Swing Graphical User Interface API, JRadioButton and JCheckBox. So today we are going to present you a live demonstration and implementation of JRadioButton and JCheckBox to present list of options to make window-based application. So this session is going to divide into two parts. First we'll see about JRadioButton and the next part we'll learn about JCheckBox, graphical user interface components. Before we get into the demonstration, let's first learn about these components one by one. JRadioButton is a class to create radio button which is used to select one option from multiple options. In the real-time application, you can see it is best used in filling forms, online objective papers and quiz. The best example to understand about the best application is a registration form where we use for gender, where male and female are two options and user has to select any one of it. It also has a feature called button group method, which is used to create a group in which we can add more buttons in an organized and structured form. JRadioButton, we can select only one JRadioButton in a button group. Creating a button group instance by using button group constructor, button group G equals new button group constructor. This is the syntax. Now in this case, since button group is defined in a G object, now G can be used add method to add more radio buttons. There is one method is called in this API is called isSelected, which will return a Boolean value true or false. If a JRadioButton selected, it will return true, otherwise false. Now this is a part of the J component hierarchy in a Swing Graphical User Interface API framework. Now if we say about the JRadioButton, the syntax goes like this: JRadioButton, the object name equals new JRadioButton constructor. Swing is the customized form of AWT, Abstract Window Toolkit API. So RadioButton itself is a class in AWT API. When it comes to the JRadioButton, that is improvised in the Swing API. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. In demonstration, I'm going to take an example of training center courses where we are going to write an application where we are going to list out all the option of programming courses available in the training center, and after selected one of the course, it will return a box of selected course like this. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. So this is my Eclipse IDE and I'm going to continue with my Swing demo application, and inside my package I'm going to create a class JRadioButton demo, since I have already created, and I need a main method. So this is my class and let's start inside the main method. Before that, we need to extend our class to JFrame, since this is the part of the hierarchy of J components. So we have to make sure we are extending our parent class, and we need to import the package. Now before we get into the main method, the most important part is we are going to use our RadioButton feature. So RadioButton need to create an object of that class. So JRadioButton, I'm going to make JRB1. So our design is we are going to list out all the options available in the training center. So the options will be in a RadioButton form. So that many, I'm just taking an example of 3 radio buttons, 3 options. You can include as many as you want. Make sure you have the case sensitive, so you need to make sure you are using camel case. So I'm just using 3 JRadioButtons. List down the 3 options. Now once the radio button is done, we need a button feature, because that button will insert the input and return it to your alert box so that it will display it. So JButton itself is another part of a class, so we need to include the package. Now once this is done, button group, we are going to create a button group so that it will be more organized and structured. And we'll see more, it will be more clear when we actually see it, how it works. So import package, And next we need a label to display the message or commenting on the object, on the component of what you are going to create. And this is going to be termination. Now let's define the constructor. There's so many ways you can do it. You can directly call it in the main method, or you can do your so many ways. I am going to create with the help of the constructor, so that this will also help me to improvise later. That will be easy. So when you work in a constructor, what I'm going to do using this operator and this inside this operator, I'm going to have the layout, set layout null. And once this is done, then I'm going to have the JButton method, a JButton object equals new button group, button submit, because we have to create the button, so we need to name it submit the data or submit the course, whatever you can mention it. Submit, the typical label of a button is submit. Button group is going to be mentioned as a courses, so you can reuse it, this type of button group, in other ways, like a fee structure or any other types of forms, like what is going to be of paid format, payment method, or fee structure, or experience, or instructors. Many other way you can use it. So this is going to be my label one, actually L1, and your G1 is going to be G1 equals button group, so new button group. Radio button options, so JRB1 equals set text, and inside the option I'm going to write down Java or J2EE. Just like this, we need to have more options like JRB2. For second radio button, I'm going to make sure Python, or for third option I'm going to have it PHP. So these are the courses for the training center available. Next option, what you can do is you can mention the position, so JRB1 equals set bound and your dimensions as an argument, like 120 or 30 or 120 or some random number 50. I mean, it will be more clear when we actually see it, then we can change it. So we'll just make a small changes, like we are moving it towards left, so 80. I'll just make changes in like this instead of making it more changes. 250 here, and sorry, 250 and 350, moving it towards left, you see, in a horizontal form. So I'm just making an options like this. This will be 80. It's like an axis form, so you can see L-axis, X-Y axis, so location. Now once this is done, next we need to set the position for the J button. And give the dimensions like 125, 90, 80 and 30. And similarly for L1, your label, where you have to mention it. So it is a case sensitive, so you have to make sure you are giving the syntax properly. Label, let's make it like a 20, because it has to be at the top of the choices, so that it will be more organized. 150, and I'll just give some random number 50 towards the left side. So once this is done, next step we need to give the adding the objects in your frame. So using this operator you can add your JRB button, radio button, JRB2, all the objects one by one. We are adding it in our frame. This dot add L1, since we have already mentioned the dimensions of the location of these components, you can you don't have to make it in a sequence. You see, all you need to add, rest it will do it all by itself based on the dimensions. Now we have added the button, we have added all the components. Next step is to making it in a group. So G1 dot add JRB1. It's JRB3. So this is in a group now. Next we have to implement the action perform method, where we are going to return the value which the user selected in an alert box. So JButton equals add action listener and new action listener. You see, listener method implementation, and inside that we are going to create public void action performed. Action event E. String, this is for the course. What course is user selected? So just initializing this variable in this form. It's showing error because we have to include the action. Maybe I have not mentioned. We have to add the action listener, extend the okay, we'll see that later. Mostly it's because of this. Okay, let's see. If your user select JRB1 is select method, that means your first course is mentioned as J2EE. So your course is equals J2EE. Else if JRB2 equal is selected, your course is equals Python. Else if since there are only 3 options, you can add more. JRB3 equals is select course equals Python PHP. And else course equals, we need to verify and validate the data also, so no choice, no course selected. Try again. So this is what the implementation for the action listener. Now once this is done, the next is we need to have the alert box implementation. So we need to show the message to the user. So once the choices as mentioned, J option, that can be done using J option pane dot show message dialog. Your constructor of this class, JRadioButton demo dot this, that will call the current instructor, constructor, and the course. Return type the object which is selected, the course selected, the string. And once this is done, the termination, and next is main method. Now let's take a look at the errors. So all we need to include in your main method is your constructor. So JRadioButton demo JRadio equals new, and all we need to just J dot set bounds. We need to set the location of your frame. So I'm just making it as short just to display the radio button options, you see. And here in the frame, or we can just set the title here. So give some TechWrench presence JRadioButton demo. And once this is done, and we have to set visible true, and that's it. Now let's take a look at the execution. It's a Java based project, so you need to run in Java console, and you can see the window TechWrench presents JRadioButton demo. So listed down three options: JWT, JWE, Python, and PHP. I selected PHP, and when I submit, it will return me a message box says PHP. If I select J2EE, it will return me J2EE. Python, submit Python. So this is the demonstration of JRadioButton as an example for technical training. Now let's take a look at the JCheckBox. JCheckBox class is used to create checkbox. It used to return an option on true or false. Clicking on a checkbox change its state from on to off or from off to on. It inherits JToggle buttons. The syntax goes like this: public class JCheckBox extend JToggle button implements accessible. There are few most popular being used methods. JCheckBox constructor that creates an initially unselected checkbox button with no text, no icon. JCheckBox with string argument creates an initially unselected checkbox with some text. JCheckBox string text return type argument and boolean selected creates a checkbox with text and specific whether or not it is initially selected. JCheckBox action with some action performed. and where the properties are being taken for the action supplied. Accessible context, get accessible context constructor is used to get the accessible context associated with this JCheckBox. Protected string return type parent string method is used to return a string representation of this JCheckBox. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. Desktop bookshop. Here we are going to write a Java Swing based program where we are going to list down all the books available with price using checkbox. User select checkbox and click submit button. Pop alert will return the total cost of the shopping of the books from the user. Now let's take a look at the demonstration. Okay, so here is my Eclipse IDE, and I'm going to continue with my same application and making a class for JCheckBox demo. And I need a main method. Before I start, I'm going to import my Java x.swing API. I'm using asterisk. It will include all the classes and methods and interfaces, everything in front. So this will help me to minimize my errors, and this is because of the case sensitive. And I'm going to extend my parent class JFrame because I'm going to create a frame where we are going to have the implementation and implements action listener interface to perform some return type. So we need to, now what is the error here? Unimplemented method. Okay, we are going to create a method action performed here. So this is already created. Now inside this class, next step, we are going to create all the objects like graphical user interface components like label and your checkbox. The idea is, remember, it is a camel case character, case sensitive. So my idea is I'm going to list down the books with the price, and this will return the cost of the books the user is buying. So I'm listing down 3 books and a button to submit the and get the return the price, total price of the shopping. Next, I'm going to code it in the constructor. There are so many ways you can do it. Here I'm going to use the constructor implementation. Make sure you have your case sensitive issue selected, sorted out before that. Now L, my label, I'm going to mention it as J label, some text like desktop book shop, and you can maintain as a DVD shop or rental shop or anything like this. You can use it, this type of application. I'm going to return some integer values as an axis so that it will be positioned in the entire frame accordingly. Your CB1 checkbox 1 is equals to your some book Sydney Sheldon with rupees some with money about associated with the money $100. And next step, we need to set the position of the checkbox. And just pass some arguments of the axis, 100, 100. It's basically in your axis dimensions where it will be located. So this will be kind of 120. And once checkbox first is done, let's do it for same for checkbox 2, which is equals new J checkbox and some value rich dad and poor dad. and that is cost you 34. cb2.setBounds, your dimensions will be 100, 150, 150 and 20. Next step, cb3 equals new JCheckBox, some book, if tomorrow comes, dreams come true. Okay, I missed the termination of this sentence, this statement. And cb3.setBounds, dimensions, some number to 50. If you see it, you can find out the dimensions goes like that way, x axis and y axis, and the location. Next step, B button. Next we need to have the, I always go with the construct, that because that makes it a little easy to understand, because we have to first create the object and then we locate it and add it using add button in your frame. So this is the most efficient way you can create your frame. b.setBounds, instead of more complicated way in the main method, you can just create it in a constructor and call the constructor in your main method, so that you can reuse or modify it in the constructor instead of searching for a particular code in the later stages of the application development. Suppose we need to add anything at the end, what you can do, you can just check out in your constructor instead of tracking the code in the main method. Now let's add all the components one by one. So first we have label, add, your checkbox 1, add checkbox 2, add checkbox 3, and add button. Label, checkbox and buttons. Now set size. Your size of the window will be 400. You can have it 1000, it's up to you. Set layout. We don't have to have any design on it, so let's have it now. And set default. So this is not mandatory, but it's always efficient to use, is called exit on close. So if you wanted to exit from the application, all you need to default operation. Next step, we need to implement your action listener. So for action listener, let's go inside the action performed method, and inside the action performed method, let's have a float type of total amount variable initialized to 0, string some message for the user, just in case if he missed to insert select any particular checkbox. So if your checkbox 1 is selected, just like your radio button, we have a selected method here for your checkbox also, you can use it. And inside that, amount will be plus equals to, since your first price is $100, right? So will be 100. This will return 100. And message, the book name which you have selected here, Sydney Sheldon. The entire string you can pass here. That's the message. So let the user know that you choose this book and that's cost this much. That's why you have to pay this much amount. if since user can select more than one here in this case in the checkbox, so you have to add and mention it that what all books the user has selected. So that's why the message is being displayed for the user to know that since you selected 2 books, so name of the 2 books and how much it cost. So my second book is cost $34. Okay, I forgot this one. 25 $34. So let's add 34 for the dreams come true or rich dad poor dad. For this string, amount is 34 and message will be and if CB3 or checkbox 3 is selected, your amount is equals to 25 and message dreams come true and $25. So this is your implementation of the action listener for action performed. And in the end, what you can do, you can display the message to the user using the same way. Since suppose user didn't mention or didn't print anything, you can just for the closing. This total price, amount and termination. So this is your J option. Now inside the main method, all we need to call the constructor. So this is the execution. So TechRanch present JCheckBox demonstration for desktop bookshop. I selected first book and it will return me Sydney Sheldon $100 total price of the shopping. Now if I select 2 books, it will list down the 2 books which I have selected along with the price and the total price supposed to be paid. And in case of the 3 books, like this, listing of the books along with the price and the total price. You can add more checkbox and list down the more books with the price and mention just adding the checkbox. So this is the demonstration of JCheckBox using Swing graphical user interface API component. Homework for the practice project to get the hands-on experience what we have practiced so far. So here I'm taking an example of the library management system. Write a Java Swing graphical user interface based program for desktop registration form application for library management system. Suppose a new visitor visit the library and wanted to sign up for the services. What we are going to do, we are going to create a frame. Inside the frame, we are going to add all the components we have learned so far in this course. Text box, radio button, drop down, or combo box, or text field, and checkbox, and the button. And we are going to display all the information in another panel. So get the values from the user name using JText field, mobile number using JText field, gender using JRadioButton, date of the birth using JCombo box, address using JText field, terms and condition using JCheckBox, submit button to get the values, and display in panel using J button, reset to clear the values. So this is the registration form for library management system or any kind of rental properties or DVD or any kind of service or particular management system you need, you can use it. It's very universal. and generic form of registration form for desktop-based application. You can include JDBC and involve your database server to make it more efficient software application. So suppose my username is TechRanch and their number is, and it is female, and some date of birth. It's using combo box. Some address is Johnson Drive, Pleasanton, and some city name and some pin code, and checkbox for the terms and condition. If I submit, it will display the values here. And you can use a JDBC and insert these data in the database or display it in the text form like this. So this is one of the demonstration, all the components to include and make it in a registration form successfully using text field, radio button, checkbox, combo box, button, and text fields. For any kind of assistance or source code needed or any questions, please feel free to contact techranch2019@gmail.com. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more upcoming interesting, informative sessions and demonstrations. Let's make coding fun. Thank you.